I didn't know if it would work. I didn't even know what account it was connected to, but I had nowhere else to go. I drove to the nearest hotel. Not fancy, just clean. At the front desk, the clerk smiled politely. "Card, please?" I slid my father's old card across the counter. She swiped it. The machine froze. Her smile faded. "I'm sorry," she said slowly. "One moment." She tried again. The screen flashed red. Then something strange happened. She looked at the card, then at me, then back at the screen. "Ma'am, could you wait right here?" My stomach dropped. I thought the card was declined. I thought I was about to be humiliated again. She disappeared into the back office. 5 minutes passed. 10. Then 2 men in suits walked out. Not hotel staff, bank staff. "Ms. Carter?" one of them asked. "Yes," I said, my voice barely steady. "We need to verify your identity." People in the lobby were staring. "I didn't do anything wrong," I said quickly. One of the men raised his hand gently. "You're not in trouble." That's when my phone started vibrating. Unknown number, then another call, and another. The man glanced at my screen and his expression changed. "Please," he said quietly, "come with us." We sat in a private room. They asked about my father, his full name, his work history, when he passed away. I answered, confused and overwhelmed. Finally, the older man leaned forward. "Ms. Carter," he said, choosing his words carefully, "do you know what kind of account that card is linked to?" I shook my head. "No." He exhaled slowly. "Your father didn't have a normal checking account." My heart started pounding.
"He was part of a private financial reserve," the man continued. "Extremely rare, extremely protected." The younger man added, "The moment you used that card, it triggered multiple internal alerts." I stared at them, my mouth dry. "Why?" I asked. They exchanged a look. "Because," the older man said, "that account hasn't been touched in over a decade, and it holds more money than most people see in a lifetime." I felt dizzy. That night, sitting alone in that hotel room, wrapped in a borrowed blanket, I cried harder than I ever had. Not from fear this time, but from realization. My father knew. He knew life could collapse overnight. He knew love could turn into betrayal, and he made sure I would never be completely powerless. What I didn't know yet was that using that card would also alert someone else. Someone who would call my husband the next morning and change everything. The phone rang at 6:12 a.m. It wasn't my alarm. It wasn't Ethan. It wasn't a number I recognized. I stared at it, my heart already racing, then answered. "This is Claire Carter," I said, cautiously. "This is Daniel Brooks from North Atlantic Trust." I sat up in bed instantly. "I'm calling regarding the account you accessed last night." My fingers tightened around the phone. "I didn't mean to cause any trouble," I said quickly. "I didn't even know." "You didn't cause trouble," he interrupted gently. "You caused movement." There was a pause. "Movement?" I repeated. "Yes," he said. "Accounts like your father's don't move. When they do, people notice." I swallowed. "What kind of people?" He didn't answer that directly. "Before we go any further," he said, "I need to confirm something. Are you currently married to Ethan Reynolds?" My chest tightened. "Yes," I said, "but we're separated, as of last night." Another pause. "I see," he said quietly. "That explains the secondary alerts." I frowned. "Secondary alerts?" "Miss Carter," he said, lowering his voice, "your husband attempted to block access to your financial assets yesterday afternoon." I laughed bitterly. "That doesn't surprise me." "What may surprise you," he continued, "is that he attempted to block access to funds that were never his to control." My breath caught. "What does that mean?" It means, he said carefully, that his actions flagged our compliance department, and then our legal department, and then federal oversight. I sat there, stunned. I thought I had nothing, I whispered. You never had nothing, he replied. You just didn't know what you had. There was a knock at my hotel room door. I froze. Are you expecting someone? Daniel asked. No, I said, my voice shaking. Please look through the peephole, he said calmly. I slid off the bed and peered through. 2 men in dark suits stood outside. 1 woman, all holding folders. They're here, Daniel said, as if he could see them. That's our legal team. Please open the door. Every instinct screamed danger, but something in his tone felt protective. I opened the door. Miss Carter, the woman said warmly, extending her hand. I'm Susan Hale. We represent your interests. My interests? No one had ever said that to me before. They sat with me for nearly 2 hours. They explained things slowly, carefully. My father had created a layered financial structure decades ago. Trusts inside trusts, assets diversified across institutions, countries, and protections. But why hide it from me? I asked, my voice cracking. Susan smiled sadly. He didn't hide it. He delayed it. He wanted you to live freely, not dependently. I thought of all the times Ethan controlled the money, questioned my spending, reminded me who paid the bills. Anger rose in my chest. What happens now? I asked. Susan closed her folder. Now, she said, we protect you. And Ethan? I asked quietly. The room went silent. Daniel spoke. Ethan Reynolds attempted to leverage marital authority over accounts connected to protected reserves. That's a serious violation. I blinked. Violation of what? Of banking law, he said, and possibly federal statutes. My phone buzzed again. This time, it was Ethan. I hesitated. Should I answer? I asked. Susan nodded. Please do. I put it on speaker. Claire? Ethan's voice snapped through the room. What the hell did you do? I took a breath. What do you mean? Don't play dumb, he said. The bank called me, lawyers, compliance officers. They're asking questions about accounts I don't recognize. I looked at Susan. She gave me a small, encouraging nod. You told me I had nothing, I said calmly. Turns out that wasn't true. You used some old card, he hissed. Do you have any idea what kind of mess you've made? I was homeless. You kicked me out. That doesn't give you the right. It gives me the right to survive, I said, my voice steady for the first time. There was silence on the line. Then his tone changed. Claire, listen, whatever that account is, we can handle it together, you and me. I laughed, not out of humor, out of clarity. No, I said, we can't. What are you saying? He demanded. I'm saying, I replied, that you don't get to control me anymore. He exploded. You think you're smarter than me now? You think money makes you powerful? I leaned back against the chair. No, I said, I think honesty does. Susan gently reached over and ended the call. You did well, she said. I exhaled shakily. What happens to him? I asked. Daniel answered. That depends, he said, on what else we find. Later that afternoon, I received access to a private account dashboard. Numbers filled the screen. I couldn't even process them. This isn't real, I whispered. Susan smiled. It's very real, she said, and it's yours. That night, alone again, but not abandoned, I stared out the hotel window at the city lights. For the first time in years, I didn't feel small. I didn't feel trapped. But deep down, I knew something else was coming, because men like Ethan don't lose quietly, and my father's card had just opened a door that was never meant to stay closed. I didn't know it yet,
but the next few days would reveal not just my husband's betrayal, but a secret he'd been hiding long before he married me. And when that truth came out, everything would change. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, numbers flashed behind my lids. Accounts, dates, transfers I didn't understand yet, but somehow felt connected to me. By morning, my phone was already buzzing. Emails, secure messages, calendar invites. One subject line made my chest tighten. Urgent, spousal financial activity review, Ethan Reynolds. Susan met me at the hotel cafe just after 8. She looked calm, too calm. "That's never a good sign," I said, pointing at the folder in her hand. She sat across from me and folded her hands. "We started the audit," she said, "earlier than planned." My stomach dropped. And your husband has been moving money for years," she said, quietly, strategically, and illegally. I stared at her. "How?" "She used shell accounts," she explained, "consulting fees, investment vehicles under third-party names, all routed through joint expenses to look marital." I thought of the times Ethan insisted I sign papers without reading them, tax documents, investment summaries, just formalities, he'd said. "I trusted him," I whispered. She nodded. "That's usually how it works." She slid a document toward me. 1 page, 1 number circled in red. 7 figures, she said. "That's how much he diverted, so far." My hands started shaking. "So far?" I echoed. She didn't answer immediately. "There's more," she said finally. "Much more." I felt sick. "What does this have to do with my father's account?" I asked. Susan leaned in. "Ethan didn't know about your father's reserve," she said, "but he suspected something existed." My heart pounded. "He's been searching for it for years," she continued. "Every unusual transaction, every legacy account tied to your name, he tried to trace." A memory hit me. Ethan once joked at dinner, years ago. "Your dad was old money," he'd said. "Bet he left you a secret fortune somewhere." I laughed then. He wasn't joking. "He married you with intent," Susan said gently. The words felt like a punch. "Intent to what?" I asked. "To access whatever your father hid," she replied, "or to control you until he could." I pushed back from the table. "My whole marriage?" My voice broke. "Was it all a setup?" Susan didn't sugarcoat it. "Not all of it," she said, "but enough to matter." That afternoon, we moved me to a different hotel, private, discreet. "Precaution," Daniel said. "Ethan's making calls." I watched security scan the lobby before letting us through. This didn't feel like my life anymore. At 3 p.m., Susan called me into a conference room. "There's someone you need to speak to," she said. A man appeared on the screen. Gray hair, military posture, sharp eyes. "I'm Robert Hale," he said. "I handled part of your father's financial security." My throat tightened. "You knew my dad?" I asked. He nodded. "Very well," he said. "He was careful, brilliant, and very afraid." "Afraid of what?" I asked. "Of exactly this," he replied. He took a breath. "Your father believed someone would eventually try to reach his reserves through you." My skin prickled. "He planned for it," Robert continued. "That's why the card exists. It's a key and also a test." "A test?" I asked. "Yes," he said. "The moment it was used, it told us 2 things. 1, you were in need. 2, someone had forced your hand." I thought of Ethan's cold smile. "That's why the bank panicked," I whispered. Robert nodded. "Because it meant the system worked and that you needed protection immediately." A new email popped up on Susan's tablet. Her expression hardened. "What is it?" I asked. She turned the screen toward me. "Notice of legal action filed, Reynolds versus Carter." "He's suing you," she said. claiming financial misconduct and concealment of marital assets. I laughed weakly. He stole from me and now he's suing me? Yes, Susan said, because he's desperate. That night, I finally called my mother. I hadn't spoken to her in months. Ethan never liked her. When she heard my voice, she started crying.
I knew something was wrong, she said. I just didn't know how to reach you. I'm sorry, I whispered. So am I, she replied. But honey, your father always said this day might come. I closed my eyes. He did? I asked. He said, she continued, if Claire ever calls crying about money, tell her to use the card and trust the people who show up. Tears streamed down my face. I thought he was just being dramatic, my mother said softly, but he was preparing you. The next morning, headlines began circulating in private financial circles. Nothing public yet, but whispers. Ethan's firm suspended him pending investigation. Accounts frozen, partners distancing themselves. Susan warned me. This is the calm before the storm, she said. When it breaks, it'll break loud. I stood by the window, watching rain streak down the glass. All my life, I thought strength meant endurance, staying, tolerating, surviving quietly. But my father taught me something different. Real strength waits, and when it moves, the world notices. I didn't know how brutal the storm would be. I didn't know how far Ethan was willing to go, but I was about to find out, because the next step he took was the one that exposed him completely. The subpoena arrived the next morning, not by mail, by hand, a private courier, security clearance, my name typed in bold. Susan didn't even let me touch it at first. He's escalating, she said. That means he's cornered. What does he want now? I asked. She opened the folder slowly. He's demanding a full disclosure of every asset tied to you, your father, and any related trusts, past, present, and future. I laughed, but it came out hollow. I thought he could still reach it, I said. Yes, Susan replied, and more importantly, he thinks he can scare you. That afternoon, something unexpected happened. Ethan showed up, not at the hotel, not at the bank, at my mother's house. She called me in a panic. He's here, Claire, she whispered. He says he just wants to talk. My blood ran cold. I do not let him in, I said immediately. Mom, listen to me. He already came inside, she said, her voice shaking. He brought flowers. Flowers. That was Ethan's favorite move. I'm sending security, Susan said, already dialing. Stay on the line. By the time I arrived, 2 unmarked cars were parked outside my mother's home. Ethan was sitting on the couch like nothing had changed. Same calm posture, same controlled smile. Claire, he said softly, you look tired. I stood near the door. What are you doing here? I asked. He glanced at my mother. I wanted to reassure her, he said. She's been hearing some exaggerated stories. My mother looked small, confused. Leave, I said. Ethan chuckled. You always were dramatic, he said. I'm trying to fix this. Fix what? I snapped. You stealing from me? Kicking me out? Suing me? His eyes hardened for just a second. You're making this bigger than it needs to be, he said. If you cooperate, this all goes away. Cooperate how? I asked. He leaned forward. Full transparency, he said. You transfer what's hidden, we negotiate privately. No courts, no investigations. I felt something snap inside me. You don't get to negotiate, I said. You lost that right the moment you treated me like property. He stood. You think those lawyers care about you? He said quietly. They care about money. And once they get it, you'll be alone again. Before I could respond, the front door opened. Susan walked in. So did 2 federal agents. Ethan froze. Mr. Reynolds, one of them said, we need to ask you a few questions.
Ethan smiled tightly. About what? He asked. About financial misrepresentation and coercive control. My mother gasped. Ethan looked at me. You planned this, he said. No, I replied calmly. You walked into it. They escorted him out. That night, I shook uncontrollably. Not from fear, from release. For the first time, someone saw what he was. 2 days later, the real bomb dropped. Susan called me into the conference room again. She said, her voice tight. She placed a file in front of me. Inside were emails, encrypted, archived, old. These were recovered from a private server linked to Ethan, she said, hidden offshore. I skimmed the first page. My heart stopped. Subject line, Project Carter. My name. I was a project? I whispered. Susan nodded grimly. He tracked your inheritance potential before you married, she said. He consulted analysts, private investigators. I flipped pages. Notes about my habits, my friendships, my relationship with my father. A line stood out. Emotional leverage strongest through financial dependency. I felt sick. He planned to isolate you, she said, and he succeeded for a while. Tears streamed down my face. I thought I was weak, I said. I thought I needed him. You were conditioned. That's not weakness. That evening, I sat alone and read every page. Not because I wanted pain, because I wanted truth. And the truth was this: Ethan never loved me. He studied me. The trial date was set quickly. Too much evidence, too many flags. Media caught wind. Headlines started leaking. Not my name, his. Financial executive under investigation for marital fraud. He tried to contact me again. Letters, apologies, promises. I didn't respond. On the morning of the hearing, Susan stood beside me. Are you ready? She asked. I nodded. Yes, I said. I'm done being afraid. Inside the courtroom, Ethan didn't look powerful anymore. He looked small, tired, desperate. When I took the stand, my voice didn't shake. I told the truth about the control, the isolation, the money, about the night he kicked me out, and about the card. The judge listened carefully. So did everyone else. When it was over, the ruling was clear. Restraining order granted. Assets protected. Criminal investigation expanded. Outside, cameras flashed. Susan shielded me. Do you want to say anything? A reporter shouted. I paused. Yes, I said. I want people to know that abuse doesn't always leave bruises. I continued. Sometimes it empties your bank account and convinces you that you deserve it. That night, I went back to the hotel, not as a victim, but as a woman reclaiming her life. And yet, this wasn't the end, because what Ethan did next from a holding cell was the most dangerous move of all, and it would force me to make a decision that no amount of money could protect me from. The call came just after midnight, not from Ethan, from a blocked number routed through the detention center. Susan was with me when my phone rang. She looked at the screen once and stiffened. That's not normal, she said. Answer it on speaker. I did. Claire, Ethan's voice said, softly, too softly. I don't have much time. I closed my eyes. You're not supposed to contact me, I said. I know. This isn't about us anymore. Susan leaned closer. What do you want? I asked. I want to warn you, he said. A chill ran through me. About what? I asked. He laughed quietly. You really don't know how big this is, do you? Susan shook her head slightly, signaling me to keep him talking. Then explain, I said. Your father's money, Ethan continued. It's not just money, it's leverage. My heart started pounding. You think I married you because I was greedy, but greed was only part of it. What else was there? I asked. There are people, he said slowly, who've been watching that reserve for years. Institutions, families, networks. Susan's face went pale. The moment you used that card, Ethan said. You didn't just alert banks. You woke them up. I swallowed hard. You're lying, I said. I wish I was, he replied. Do you know why your father hid that money so well? He didn't wait for an answer. Because he helped expose something decades ago, Ethan said, and powerful people never forget. The line went dead. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. Susan was the first to move. We need to escalate security, she said, immediately. Was any of that true? I asked, my voice shaking. She didn't answer right away. Some of it, she admitted, not all, but enough to take seriously. The next morning, I met Robert Hale again, in person this time. He looked older than before, heavier. Ethan reached out to you, he said, not asking. Yes, I replied. He said my father made enemies. Robert nodded slowly. Your father was part of a whistleblower consortium, he said, late 80s, early 90s. My chest tightened. Against who? I asked. Predatory banking networks, asset manipulation, sovereign fund exploitation. I struggled to process it. He helped expose them, Robert continued, but exposure doesn't erase influence, it just makes it quieter. So the money, I began, was compensation, he finished, and protection. I laughed weakly. My dad was just a quiet man who fixed the sink himself, I said. That's how he survived, Robert replied. Security changed after that. Different routes, different vehicles, no patterns. For the first time, I felt what real wealth meant. Not comfort, but attention. Then came the message. Not a call. An envelope slid under my hotel door. No return address. Inside was a single photograph. My father, taken years ago, and a note. Some accounts should stay asleep. I sat on the floor for a long time, staring at it. They're testing you, Susan said when she saw it. Fear. Silence. I won't disappear, I said. She studied me carefully. There is another option, she said. What? I asked. You can close the reserve, she said. Dissolve it. Redistribute the assets. End its significance. My heart skipped. And erase my father's legacy? I asked. Or redefine it, she replied. That night I dreamed of my father. He was standing by a river, calm as always. You don't have to carry it, he said, but you do have to choose. I woke up with tears on my face. The next day I made my decision. I called Susan. Robert. Daniel. I want to speak publicly, I said. Susan inhaled sharply. That's risky, she said. So is hiding, I replied. The press conference was small, controlled. No numbers, no names, just truth. I spoke about financial abuse, about hidden power, about silence. I announced the creation of an independent foundation, every dollar redirected, education, legal aid, protection for people trapped like I was. The reserve would no longer be a secret. It would be a shield. The reaction was immediate. The messages stopped. The pressure eased. When power can't hide in shadows, it loses its grip. Ethan took a plea deal 2 weeks later. No trial, no speeches, just consequences. On my last day at the hotel, I packed slowly. I held my father's card one final time. Then I placed it in a drawer. I didn't need it anymore, because the real inheritance he left me wasn't money. It was foresight, courage, and the strength to stand in the light. One chapter remained, the quiet one, the one where I finally lived. And that story ends now. The house was silent, not the heavy silence of fear, not the hollow silence of loneliness, a clean one. Sunlight poured through the windows of the small rental home I'd moved into just outside the city. No guards, no black cars, just birds on the fence and the hum of a distant lawnmower. For the first time in years, my life felt normal.
I made coffee slowly, let it drip, let the smell fill the kitchen. No one rushing me, no one asking where I was going, no one monitoring a bank app on their phone. I sat at the table and opened my laptop. Hundreds of emails. Most were from women. I thought I was alone. He controls all the money. Your story sounded like my life. I read every single one. Some made me cry. Some made me angry. All of them reminded me why I did this. The foundation launched quietly, but spread fast. Legal clinics for financial abuse victims, emergency accounts women could access without spousal approval, education programs teaching people how control hides behind love. I didn't put my name on buildings. I put it on signatures. That mattered more. 3 months later, the divorce was finalized. No drama, no courtroom show. Ethan signed everything. He didn't look at me once. When it was over, the judge asked if I wanted to say anything. I shook my head.
Closure doesn't always need words. Outside, a reporter approached. "Do you feel like you won?" she asked. I thought about it for a moment. "No," I said honestly. "I feel like I woke up." That night, I visited my father's grave. I hadn't gone since before he got sick. I brought no flowers, just myself. "I get it now," I said quietly, kneeling. "Why you were so careful. Why you didn't explain." The wind moved through the trees. "I'm okay," I added. "You don't have to worry anymore." I stayed there until the sun dipped low. Some things don't need answers. They just need peace. Months passed. Life filled in the empty spaces. I started working again. Not because I needed money, because I needed purpose. I taught workshops on financial independence. Sometimes I shared my story. Sometimes I didn't. But every time a woman sat up straighter, every time someone said, "I didn't know this was abuse," I felt something settle inside me. One afternoon, I found the card, my father's old card. It had slipped behind a drawer liner. I held it for a long time. Then I cut it in half, not out of anger, out of gratitude. Its job was done. That evening, I recorded this story. If you're listening right now, it's because you stayed. And maybe, just maybe, you needed to hear this. Being kicked out didn't break me. Losing access to money didn't define me. What almost destroyed me was believing I was worth nothing without permission. If you're watching this and you feel trapped by love, by money, by fear, please hear me. There is always a way back to yourself. Sometimes it's hidden. Sometimes it's delayed, but it's there. If this story helped you even a little, please subscribe. Not for me, for the next person who needs to hear that survival can turn into power, and power can be used to protect. My name is Claire, and this is where my life truly began.